morning. Happy Monday. We are into Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist with me, Liz Gale, your friendly and messy third-generation ex-cult member, born and raised. And today we are talking a little bit more about Scientology's spies and the PSYOPs that they have pulled on critics and ex-members who've spoken out about them in the past. Now, I, being an ex-member who has spoken out about Scientology, have been very curious about how do they work? How do they do things? What texts do they study in order to prepare their staff to become operatives? How does it work? And over the years, I've come to understand that because of Scientology founders' roots in the Navy, as well as the CIA, which was forming around the time that Scientology was booming and the interactions, Scientology actually has a department anyway, that runs very much like their own governmental intelligence agency. And nothing proves that more than documents that were exposed in an FBI raid back in the 70s. Back then, the FBI stormed more than one of Scientology's organizations, and they got a ton of paperwork. And in that paperwork, they exposed so many operations. Like, that's what they're called, operations. Operation Snow White, Operation this. They all have names. And that's what I want to go over today. Here is the link that we're going to be using. Putting it in the chat. Okay, awesome. Hi, so glad you guys are here. So glad that we're going to get to talk about this. On Thursday, we also talked about Scientology spies on this channel, and we talked about what it's like to live as an ex-Scientologist in the community of activists or educators or wherever we may fall, and how it can be kind of like a landmine, because we know that there are enemies out here pretending to be friends. We don't always know who they are. I have been accused of being a Scientology operative in the past. I've had suspicions of others being operatives in the past. It's a wild ride. And that was Thursday. You guys can check that out. Today, we're going to stay a little more in the factual zone. There was some speculation on Thursday. You know, we had a great chat about what things could be like if spies got into our life. But today we're going to talk actually about real life situations that actually happened. So here we go. This is, hold on a second, guys. Let me get this situated just right. There we go. So obviously we're not reinventing the wheel here, guys. We're going to look at Wikipedia's list of Guardian's office operations. The Guardian's office was the Department of Scientology that changed into another name once they got busted. And so this is 70s and before, 1970s and before operations. You guys are asking some great questions when you're an ex-Scientologist. Who do you know how to trust? Well, I do think the more that we learn about the way Scientology has behaved in the past, we can look, I guess, to the future to see. It's really hard to know. That's the thing. These things operate in the shadows. That's how they work. So the Guardian's office, here, let me. Okay. The Guardian's office was first established in 1966 to the 1980s. Okay, so in this here, that's what? 24 years. Now, the Guardian's office, by the way, my dad, stepdad, mom, I'm not sure about my mom, but my dad, my stepdad, part of the Guardian's office in the early days, like very fanatical. People who joined the Guardian's office, by the way, had top Scientology clearance. They submitted to a lot of interrogations and security checks, and they truly believe that they are saving mankind and doing something like, yes, they might be breaking the law, or yes, they might be going against societal norms, but that's because They have to. That's the mindset, right? So from 1966 to 1980, this part of Scientology was called the Guardian's Office. After they got busted and they got raided, they changed it to the Office of Special Affairs. There's a lot of acronyms in Scientology. So we're just dealing with vintage era today, okay? There are 19 operations on this page. We'll just kind of float through them today. 19 different psychological and physical operations. Their entire job was to discredit, destroy, neutralize, or depower any anti-Scientology group or person. Okay, so just to make that clear, this is a section of Scientology that exists only to discredit, destroy, handle, neutralize critics, which would include people filing lawsuits, people doing investigations, investigative journalists who want to do stories, or pretty much anybody who's poking their nose around in Scientology's business. Do you guys see that? I spilled. All right. Here we go. First one, Operation Big Mouth. A plan to discredit an assistant U.S. attorney. Okay, that's pretty big time. And he represented the government involving Scientology. So they were collecting files to show harassment of the U.S. government, violations of the law. That's what this guy, he was investigating Scientology. So what did they do to him? L. Ron Hubbard and his wife instructed the Guardian's Office agents to, quote, finally and terminatedly handle Mr. Dodal. I'm going to say that again. Finally and terminatedly handle Mr. Dodal. He has been on our lines for many, many years. I would like for you to have very accurate and complete surveys done on him in DC and mock up, that's like create, and carry out some very professional, smooth ops operations, which will depower him fully. Yeah. And they burglarized his office in the U.S. courthouse in Washington, D.C., and copied reams of documents about Scientology. Operation Big Mouth. Here's another one. Operation Bulldozer Leak, 1976. This was designed to effectively spread the rumor that would lead government, media, and individual suppressive people, critics of Scientology, to conclude that L. Ron Hubbard had no control over the Church of Scientology and no legal liability for church activity. AKA, the founder of Scientology went into hiding, and Operation Bulldozer Leak was a rumor started to absolve him legally from crimes connected with the Scientology, financial ones. And to answer this question, finally and terminatedly handle, what is that? Just like it sounds like, terminatedly is a Scientology term. Might be a real word, but they use it in Scientology a lot. It's a product. It's a description of a product to a problem. It's almost like solving a problem with prejudice. You terminatedly solve the problem in the fact that it will not ever come back again. Does that make sense? So we'll probably hear that wording throughout these, would be my guess. Hello to the lurkers. Okay, so they want to spread this rumor, Operation Bulldozer Leak. How do they do it? So they send operatives out to spread the rumor, working agents that were undercover to approach government officials, journalists, and others who had been critical of Scientology. An agent, quote, will in several different ways mention that he has heard L. Ron Hubbard no longer has any control of the church, and that an ex-Scientologist has shown some articles, and he's established it in several court cases. They were supposed to see him personally, telephone them, and this was all scripted. They were given script and trained on this. that spreading a rumor that L. Ron Hubbard no longer has any power over the church. If they have to have an operation to spread a rumor, my guess would say that it's true that L. Ron Hubbard did maintain power, even when he said, no, I've got no idea what's going on. Remember, around this time, the reason these documents got out was because Scientology got raided and they were in big trouble. They were having a huge investigation. So L. Ron Hubbard was trying to say he had nothing to do with it, that he didn't know because he wasn't there. He wasn't in charge. So, my goodness, I wonder why they named them these. Bulldozer leak. Okay. Operation Bunny Bust. Okay. Also 1976, they were very busy. I would assume that these became part of the court documents for the Operation Snow White. So, 1976 was a covert operation. Let's not glaze over that term. All right. So Operation Bunny Bus was a covert operation mounted against Betty Orsini, a reporter with the St. Petersburg Times newspaper. She had been undertaking a major investigation of Scientology in the early part of 1976 and had come to the Guardian's office attention via its agents in the Internal Revenue Service, who had come across her request for information from the government. Whoa. So Scientology had operatives undercover working at the IRS. And when Betty Orsini put in a FOIA request, they alerted Scientology. Wow. That is gotta be racketeering, at least conspiracy, right? Conspiracy to commit fraud, something. I guess, again, they did 11, I think people got in trouble, but not enough. Not enough, if you ask me. So, to resolve the problem, they planned a codename operation to get Betty Orsini removed from a position of power and attack an agent posing as an aide to a mafia figure. Oh my gosh. They had somebody pose as a mafia figure, go to the Times office and leave $100 for her, implying that it was her payoff from the mafia. Says this one didn't actually end up happening. Instead, oh no, they went after her husband. He forgot to file a report at his work and they just took him down. Yep. Oh, and they got her. This is a long one. I guess that backfired because they exposed her and her husband as some kind of fraud financially, but it backfired when the Church of Scientology was traced back to them. Wow. Oh my gosh. It also says that this investigation led her to find 2 other undercover Scientology agents who were working at a rival newspaper at the Sun. Incredible. So they had infiltrated local newspapers, they had infiltrated the IRS, and they were all reporting back to who? Not L. Ron Hubbard, according to Operation Bulldozer Leak. Wild. These were all also going on at the same time to be a fly in the wall. I mean, why is this is what I want to see on TV. This is the show I want to see on TV. Hello. New novel incoming. Actually, I am working on something. I'm obsessed with this era. Okay. Another mid-1970s. Operation Cat. I should be keeping track. I think this is the 4th. So, Operation Cat was a plan to make a mockery and hold up to ridicule the computer, the service industries, and authority in relation to the freedom of information by planting grossly false information in government agencies, especially security service files, for later public retrieval and ridiculing exposure. Oh, hot damn. That's a lot of words, but that is basically pre-setting collateral. That's like preset blackmail extortion collateral. So Wow. I can't believe it. So they were supposed to plant dossiers in 4 government agencies and then hold a press conference and achieve 4 national media articles and 50 local articles. So these were their targets. They were supposed to, oh my gosh, it's a scandal. That is how Scientology works. Okay. So to translate what this is saying, they have spies get a job at governmental agencies, at least 4 different ones, maybe the IRS, maybe the FDA, the DEA, FBI, the CIA, for all we know. They go in there, they plant fake, like ridiculous and incriminating information in people's files that acts like a sleeper that then they later know about, and they go and they expose and hold a press conference, generating their target was 4 national media articles and 50 local articles. I mean, this is diabolical. This is governmental level intelligence agencies. Should we say, I mean, hi, you must be watching. Yes, Nora says Scientology is not above infiltrating anyone. Key word there, anyone. All right, I think we're on 5, but I'm not going back to check. Operation Chaos Leak. I like that name. I'm sensing a theme with the leak. So 1976, Operation Chaos Leak sought to attack the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, like the literal United States Department of Justice and the DEA, by leaking a confidential DOJ internal report on the DEA. The plan envisaged causing maximum chaos to the DOJ and DEA by carrying out the leak and including elaborate details on how to leak the document without it being traced back to the Church of Scientology. The plan was concocted by Cindy Raymond. Gonna put that one in my notes for later. I mean, just as a random side note, like the character development of a person who gets into a situation where they are Cindy Raymond now. They are the mastermind behind a literal leak between the Department of Justice and the DEA to get them to go head to head and cause chaos. That is mega mind villain status. Cindy, I'm coming for you, girl. I want to know what is up. Where did you come from? Are you married? Do you have kids? Who the fuck are you? My word. Okay. So after she lost a Freedom of Information Act, she decided to concoct this plan because she thought, and the entire Guardian's office, I guess, thought that causing a public scandal would discredit the DEA. And that would make it more likely for judges to rule in favor of Scientology. That is wild. Scientology is a government magazine for technology used by the California government. Who runs it? OT, 8, and OTs. I'd be curious to know the name of that. All right, now we've got Operation China Shop. Oh, 1975 was a busy year. And I often think, like, where was my mother? I think about that. She was 20 years old. So she wasn't pregnant. I don't think she was married. Cool. Well, but even if she was, her husband was a Guardian's office volunteer. What was she doing? She'll never tell me. I got to go push the button on my vacuum. Okay, I'm back every single day. I don't know why I don't learn. Yeah, Journey, we should also go live sometime. That'd be super fun if you want to come over in the morning. Give me all the tea. Okay, Operation China Shop, 1975. A plan to take over the Clearwater Sun newspaper by disrupting it and discrediting its reporters and editors. I mean, at this point, they all sort of start to sound the same, don't they? Someone named Helt ordered the Guardian's office staff to collect evidence on Sun personnel. So when they want to discredit a newspaper, they go after the actual editors and reporters and then find blackmail or compromising information on them to get what they want. So Scientology's Guardian's office successfully infiltrated an agent identified as Molly Gilliam into the Sun and obtained detailed reports on internal discussions at the newspaper. What if that was my mom? No, it wasn't. Oops. The Sun's news and advertising departments were infiltrated to obtain information on the paper's finances and employees in conjunction with an operation called Sunrise Mission. The goal was to research the Sun's advertising policies, its principal advertisers, and their businesses, and the value of the newspaper's holdings in order to determine whether the Church of Scientology could buy them out. These people are diabolical. I don't know of a better word. This is a particular set of skills. Absolutely. So they were able, the Guardians agents were able to file almost daily reports on the Sun for like 6 months. And they were stealing files on advertising, finances, story outlines, legal correspondence. Wow. Their advertisers, there are records of them with the credit union. And they were able to pull off a detailed financial analysis. Wow. So then with this information, they went after the advertisers to get them employees to discredit them and then use obviously that to stop the advertisers from bringing in any more money. Wow. Especially the Mass brothers, because they put in $400,000 a year to the newspaper. Great question. Bernina asks, did they ever get into any trouble doing this stuff? Yes, I believe. So what we're reading today is the Wikipedia page of Guardian's Office Operations. There's 19 on this page. And these were all discovered because Scientology got in trouble. Because they were, I think it was 9. Was it 9 or 11 people? I can never get the co-conspirator number right. But approximately 9 or 11 people. Yes. Okay. The chat's distracting me. Hold on. Okay. Let's talk about this. Did they ever get into trouble? Yes. There were several co-conspirators. I believe there were 11, including Mary Sue Hubbard, which is Scientology leader, founder, L. Ron Hubbard's wife. She went to prison. I think they all got out in a pretty short period of time. Who knows why? But yes, these documents are only from 1980 and before because they haven't been raided since. So I hope that answers your question. Also, very reminiscent of The Americans streaming on Hulu. You guys should watch it. Cold War, sleeper, self, woman and man, like form an entire life. They're Russian spies. They form an entire life in America. They have children here, but they're actually spies the whole time. It's wild. Thank you. Yeah, 10 or 12. So I think if you say 10 or 12 and I say 9 or 11, I think we're somewhere, I think it's 11. I'm going to sneeze. Oh no. Okay. Bernina asks, you mean since they've gotten religious tax exempt status, they've been squeaky clean? Clean as a whistle. All right, so that was the Sun. Now we have Operation Cutthroat. And this was one of a number of operations against regional outlets of the Better Business Bureau. In the case of the St. Louis branch of the Better Business Bureau in 1977, the FBI seized a number of documents regarding infiltration and background information. Okay. So where are we at now? We've got the FDA, the DOJ, the IRS, the Better Business Bureau. I know I'm missing some, but the Sun newspaper, the St. Petersburg Times. That's a lot of infiltration, guys. Operations Daniel and Dynamite. So this is interesting. It also mentions Operation Freakout, which is the Paulette Cooper scandal, which I think we'll see in a minute here, but let's see. Operations Daniel and Dynamite were part of a years-long Guardian's Office campaign against Paulette Cooper. Okay, so she wrote The Scandal of Scientology in 1971, and in my personal opinion, because she was a cute blonde who also happened to be smart and right about her criticisms of Scientology, I think that she got a really she got treated really harshly. And I do think the fact that she was a petite woman just probably really, really, really pissed L. Ron Hubbard off even more. Because having read his text, I believe he was a woman hater. So, you know. And also the way that they dealt with her. Okay, so years long they harassed this woman, by the way. She was going to go to federal prison until these documents came out. The FBI was not investigating her situation. It's just that her situation was exposed when these documents came out. So she was like absolved from all these horrible things that Scientology had done to her and had framed her for. So let's see here. During 1972, she had increased a campaign of harassment. Her name and phone number was posted on street walls, so she would receive obscene phone calls. Like, so imagine writing her, bathroom walls, bathroom stalls, call for a good time kind of thing. She was anonymously subscribed to pornographic mailing lists. There's a theme with her, which again is why I think the fact that she was a woman had something to do with this. She also received anonymous death threats, and her neighbors received letters claiming she had a VD, like an STD. The same reports mentioned that the Guardian's office was investigating and attempting commitment procedures in lines with the target of Operation Dynamite. So Dynamite, that's a bomb threat, guys. They were trying to get Paulette Cooper framed for writing bomb threats to her local Scientology. So, in other words, these mofos infiltrated for years. They infiltrated Paulette Cooper's life. And at one point, they handed her a piece of paper, got her fingerprints on it, took that back, wrote a bomb threat to themselves, then turned it over to the FBI and said that she did it and her fingerprints were on it. This is the 70s. So this is kind of what you get, fingerprints. And she was in big trouble. They did a lot more, but we can go into that another day. I'll get worked up. And you know what? For the record, she's still cute. I believe she's still alive, kicking ass, or she was. And you know who's not here? L. Ron Hubbard. Fuck that guy. Yeah, I forgot that I was gonna always refer to L. Ron Hubbard as L. Ron Hubbard on this channel, and I've already forgotten. Okay, I've lost track of what number we're on, by the way, guys. We're just gonna keep going through. This one is called Operation Devil's WAP. I don't know what a WAP is, but I'm in. Let's go. 1977. A covert operation against Senator Dennis DeConkey of Arizona, who was a supporter of anti-cult groups. So what was he doing? He was just trying to rid the world of cults, and Scientology says, no, thank you, sir. Instead, they prepared a report on him that would be leaked to the press to link him falsely with organized crime figures. I think that mafia coming back around, and questionable real estate deals. In June 1977, Guardian's agent Michael Meisner, he was one of the whistleblowers, was given the task of writing the report on the account of his knowledge and of Washington, D.C. and the political scene and his previous dealings with the press. Dang, they're getting up in senators. Wow. Common themes: false information, false rumors, spreading lies, planting false, like discrediting things, and then trying to expose them. Wild. Okay, Operation Fickle. Operation Fickle. Yes, Journey. I have it starred up here. I will absolutely make a note and I want to talk about it after. Okay? Okay. Operation Fickle was a proposed plan to attack Eugene Patterson, the editor and president of the St. Petersburg Times newspaper. Okay, so the theme of the St. Petersburg Times, they actually have put out some of the biggest exposés against Scientology pretty much ever. And they're kind of known for that. I believe they won a Pulitzer Prize even for some of their investigative journalists' work back in the day. So it makes sense that they would be a pretty big enemy. And I wonder actually how they've combated this. Because I would guess that if you're onboarded as an employee to the St. Petersburg Times, you probably signed some paperwork where you probably NDA stuff where like you can't share stuff with Scientology. Okay, so what did they do to this poor dude, Eugene? So obviously they sought to discredit him, to cast doubt upon him. A Scientologist operating undercover would interview his wife and elicit answers that could be constructed to oppose Pointner and his policies. The interview would be given to an enemy newspaper. These fuckers are diabolical. Oh my gosh. Hold on. This is so wild. So, how did they deal with the editor of a newspaper, editor and president of a newspaper that was exposing their crimes? They went in and interviewed his wife to get her to say things against his policies to again leak an article to discredit him. Wild. Wild. Ooh, Operation Freakout. Now, this is the one I think that really comes to mind with Paulette Cooper. Because what they were trying to do with her was eliminate her. They were trying to get her imprisoned or committed to a psychiatric hospital, or better by their standards, to terminatedly unalive herself. Thank you. She is 83 years old. I think Paulette Cooper a lot of times, and I've said many prayers for Paulette Cooper, because the reality is I would honestly probably not be here if it was not for people like her who endured years and years and years and years of these ops. And that is kind of a part of why I do like reminding people about these things. And again, we only kind of know what we know, which is up to around the 1980s. If Scientology was ever infiltrated and or raided again and some new operations could come out, they'd probably blow our minds. Honestly, I talked the other day about how I assume, call me crazy if you want, I assume that Scientology has the ability to access like government level surveillance, experts, equipment, softwares, technologies, etc. Like probably Mossad level. I'm not exaggerating. I have no reason to think they would be withheld from the highest level of surveillance equipment and personnel. I mean, look, they've been at this for a while. We're talking about 1976, 86, 96, 2006, 2016. That's 50 years since they did this. And there's no reason they would just stop. Scandals have gotten more, right? Like there's more going on for them to operation against. Anyway, I was going to put this up. Where to go? Yes. Paulette Cooper also had a roommate or a lover that was an OSA op. They moved a mofo into her house. And when she was feeling low, he was not there to encourage her to feel better. He was there to low key get her to unalive herself. Crazy. That one actually makes me mad. We could talk about that one all day. Let's move on to this one. Operation Funny Bone, Barry's World. I was into EST, primal therapy, yoga, Scientology, Hare Krishna, transcendental meditation. Now I'm into money. That is all it took? A freaking cartoon? And then they launched Operation Funny Bone? Okay. So Operation Funny Bone, 1977. He penned a cartoon. It says a cartoon, you guys. Can you imagine? Let me see if I can make it bigger. I don't think I can. One cartoon and you have a full-on operation to disenfranchise you? My goodness. Oh, it was recent LRH order. So this pissed the big man off himself. L. Ron Hubbard, 1977. L. Ron Hubbard, who was not in charge of Scientology's actions, according to Operation Bulldozer Leak. But it pissed him off just enough. One cartoon sent L. Ron Hubbard over the edge that he was like, fuck it, I am in charge, and said, make an operation against this guy. Operation Funny Bone, of all things. What? And he wanted it done fast. They claimed that Barry was a racist. So that's interesting. Then they had people Scientologists write into the newspaper complaining about his cartoons, asking him to drop Barry. They were also ordered, keyword there, ordered to write to the leaders of ethnic groups, urging them to protest about Barry's cartoons. Okay, so they're like, hey, he's a racist. I actually don't know if he was or wasn't, but highlighting that, and then ordered his people. That is so mob mentality. I mean, it's an army. It's wild. Okay, I had never heard of that one before. I'm getting excited because when I didn't know about all these. I had kind of scanned a few of them, but I honestly I've never read all these before. Operation Hydra. Operation Hydra was a Guardian's Office campaign to rid libraries across the United States of books and other literature that showed Scientology in a bad light. Okay, so this one makes perfect sense to me, right? They had everybody go to their local library, steal any books that were anti-Scientology, get them out of the library, and destroy them. Actually, I don't know if that was the exact plan, but that's what I'm imagining. And when they say that during some of these infiltrations of the US government, if the library and stealing library books does count toward that numbers, I can see how we could get up to 5,000. You don't have 5,000 people infiltrating the IRS. We are racking up some numbers here, though. But that one makes sense. Whoa. What does stand out to me in this story, though, is that the books were stolen all across New England, 1977. That would have been it. I bet my dad was part of that one. Let me see. Boston Globe. Interesting. They don't have a link. A lot of times in Wikipedia, they have their what's it called? And then they have the citation, and then they'll have a link. And that one doesn't. So I'll have to track down that old Boston Globe article where this is cited. That's interesting. But the part that blew my mind about this just now when I was reading is that the books were stolen from libraries all across New England, and then they were hidden behind a false wall in the Scientology building in Boston. Like, again, the mindset, the era, where it's just like 1977, we're just stealing books from the library. We're just covering secrets. It's like this big conspiracy. Everyone's out to get everybody. We're spies. We're fucking building false walls and hiding books behind them. That is like some old era. That is wild. That is wild to me. And is that how it is now too? Wild. Okay, we did that one. Italian fog. Honestly, I don't even know how far down this list we are. They just were very busy, weren't they? Operation Italian Fog was an attempt to smear Gabriel Cazares, the mayor of Clearwater, Florida. So, Basically, I know this one a little bit. Gabriel Cazares was upset. He was worried. He didn't understand why his town all of a sudden had these new people came in, built and bought a huge historic hotel. Then all of a sudden there were all these security guards with billy clubs and people like running around in the same outfits. It was wild. It was weird. And he questioned it publicly. He kind of made a stink about it. And so what did they do? They tried to frame him for having a second family, like a sex scandal second family over the border in Mexico. So the purpose of this op is to actually, this is what's written here. The purpose of the op is to get real documentation into the files of his Mexican License Bureau stating that the mayor got married in Mexico to some Mexican gal 25 years ago who is not his wife, so puts the mayor in a position of bigamy. This can be accompanied by either a bribe or covert action. Once the docs are planted, it is cleverly exposed that the mayor is promiscuous and a bigamist. You know who else was bigamist? No who else? Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, but whatever. Wow. I'm also sensing a theme. I'm learning some things here today, guys. Putting false, incriminating files into somebody's record is a play because then you go to expose it and it's not like you're leaking the information. You're exposing the information. Wild. Ooh. Operation Juicy Clanger. I like the way that sounds. Juicy Clanger. What could that possibly mean? Operation Juicy Clanger targeted tax records of prominent politicians and celebrities. Scientology operatives infiltrated the Los Angeles offices of the IRS and stole confidential files on California's governor, Jerry Brown, Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley, and singer Frank Sinatra, and the actress Doris Day, as well as attempting to steal John Wayne's tax records. The church appears to have intended to blackmail the IRS. The operation envisaged the church pretending that it had received the stolen tax records from a whistleblower and threatening to release them to create what the plans described as an additional pressure on the IRS to finish the audit of the Scientology tax matters favorably. Oh my gosh. All right. So let me make sure I'm understanding this one. Juicy Clanger. Juicy Clanger. I'm just hold on. My gears are turning here. Just give me a sec. What year was this one? Doesn't say. Juicy Clanger. Gosh, that term's gonna stick with me. One of my boards is an entire Scientology scandals and lawsuits and crimes board. So Juicy Clanger is showing up there. And you that watch today, you'll be in the know. Okay. So these motherfuckers, they infiltrate the IRS in California. They steal the tax records of the governor, the mayor, Frank Sinatra, Doris Day, John Wayne. Their plan is to then tell the IRS that they will leak these documents, and if they don't vote favorably on Scientology's tax-exempt record status, that they're going to expose the tax records of these celebrities and politicians, saying that it's the IRS's fault to cause them to look bad. Wow. These mofos were fearless. And still, at the end of the day, only 11 went to prison. This took so many people. People were infiltrating offices under fake names or maybe their real name. I don't even know. Why did more people not go to prison for this? Okay, Operation Keeler, because you know there's more. Oh, but this has to do with that same mayor of Clearwater. This was the hit and run. This was the hit and run. I know. Coming after Doris Day is like sacrilegious. Not okay. I loved me some Doris Day when I was young. It was older when I was young, so it was vintage, but She sings like an angel. She really does. Okay. Operation Keeler was another bid to smear the Clearwater, Florida mayor. So not only did they infiltrate Mexico's bureaus to get false allegations, false records, so they had to forge these records too, that this mayor had been married 25 years ago to a Mexican gal, as they called her. They're also framing him for a hit and run. Let that sink in. Scientology moves into Clearwater, Florida under a fake alias, buys up land, has essentially armed security guards on the street. And when the mayor of that exact city questions it and pulls the string on the lies, they make not just one, but two operations against this man to ruin his life. Wow. That is just wild. Here, I'll read it. On either March 13th, hey, that's L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. Was that a birthday gift for L. Ron Hubbard? Was that a present to him? The mayor picked up, okay, wait, let's see. So they basically just said that on March 13th, he had a hit and run, that he picked up a young woman. And then the next night, after a few drinks, they took a ride, hit someone 25 miles an hour, and that was that. However, it really did happen. But the people who he hit were Scientologists who had planned the whole thing. What? Oh, can you imagine? Who is that person you are willing to literally jump in front of a car going 25 miles an hour? Wow. To frame a guy, not for insurance money, but just to frame a dude who you don't like. Okay. That's a long one, but I'm moving past because I'm starting to get a little mad, guys. Operation Kettle was one of the number of operations carried out against the American Medical Association, which had criticized Dianetics and Scientology on a number of occasions. Are these part of that? I'm not sure. Operation Kettle, they don't say a lot about that. Dead link here. That's a great place to look. Operation Oscar, possibly known as the Oscar program, was an operation carried out against Michael J. Flynn, a Boston attorney who was involved in a number of lawsuits against Scientology in the early 1980s. That's the other thing. Part of why Scientology's reputation is being so litigious is because, again, if it's an editor or it's a newspaper they want to go after, they go after the editor. They go after the employees. When it's the IRS they want to influence, they go after the individual employees or the president or whatever it is. When they want to go after, they want to make examples of any lawyer who brings a case against them personally, get them disbarred, get them just ruined so that lawyers aren't willing to take cases against Scientology. It's too risky for them because you can have the most impassioned victim, but without a competent lawyer to take them against Scientology's lawyers, you need that help. And so historically, it's been really challenging for lawyers to take on Scientology because they know that they will be personally attacked. So that was what Operation Oscar was. They were going to plant agents inside his law office as well. Oh my gosh. It is, how many times, drink every time I say diabolical. I mean, for real, diabolical. All right. Operation Orange Juice was a plan to attack a Florida state representative named Frank Williams because he was sponsoring a psychological practices bill, which could have restricted the activities of Scientology in Florida. Oh, no, don't do that. The Guardian's office suspected that Williams was obviously being pushed by some mental health individual behind the scenes. And it sought to locate the WHO, World Health Organization, pushing for the bill being made, identify the bill, and take out the individual. This will result in the bill being killed. Okay, again, I am really sensing some patterns here. A bill comes on the ballot in Florida. by this representative. He brings the bill to Senate or whatever to vote, the first votes. And instead of attacking the bill, they attack the senator because they say if we can discredit him and get him out, then the bill dies with him, which is true and sad. And a lot of how things work in our country, but it's just like, damn. All right. Operation Paris. Operation Paris aimed to identify individual IRS officials working on Scientology tax matters and investigate their backgrounds and activities. A plant would be recruited to develop social and political contacts with IRS personnel. That is 2 sentences that pack a punch. So Operation Paris means that they identified individuals within the IRS who were assigned Scientology tax cases. Then they took other spies, covertly planted them in the employees' personal lives so they could understand their politics and their social and their values. Why? Well, this is just 2 sentences. If I was going on to write the next 5 sentences, I would say something along the lines of, so that they could extort them and blackmail them, duh, and get them to vote for Scientology's tax-exempt status. Doy. And all of these, again, that we're reading, these operations, this is only up to 1980. Their final tax-exempt status was declared in like 1993, I think, which means there was 13 more years of pressure and ops. They might have documented them differently, but you know damn well they didn't stop. How could they? This is written in their policies. This is how you behave. You're at the whim of a madman. That is just wild. Okay, Operation Pay Step. Operation Pay Step was a campaign against mental health organizers carried out with the use of front groups to demonstrate and stick up posters outside mental health facilities. The plan sought to create the appearance that many different groups across the United States were protesting, but specified that the protests were not to be linked with Scientology. One such protest took place out of Utah Hospital on December 13th, 1969. 1969? Most of these we've been reading are from like 75, 77. So this was 8 years before in Utah. Wow. So in other words, again, this doesn't have a link. I'm going to make note of these articles, these newspaper articles, and then I'll have to look them up on newspapers.com to see if I can find the actual text of them from 1969 or whatever. Wow. So that's another misinformation strategy. These are like, again, very Cold War, it seems highly trained in PSYOPs of the age, of the era. And I see your comment here about the Doris Day and Charles Manson, and I'm going to save that one for the end because that's a juicy little tidbit. I like that. I don't know. I guess the dates here just go to show how long Scientology was operating this way because they only started in like the 50s. And here, 1969, there's documents of them doing this shady stuff, like putting up posters and saying that other groups are protesting, but it's really them. That's like Cold War by proxy, rumors, propaganda shit, which is funny because that's exactly the way that Scientology says the enemy behaves. Right? There's a term in Scientology, and maybe it's other places, but it's called merchant of chaos. And it's like, in the truest sense, it is a real thing. You know, it'd be the arms dealer that sells weapons to both sides of a conflict. Right? They're a merchant of chaos. They're benefiting from the chaos and destruction and pain of others. And they like don't give a shit. Right? But I feel like that's what they do here. They even had one of their operations was chaos, right? That what was her name? Cindy, my new I lost her name already. I'm going to find her. This woman who gets turned down for a Freedom of Information Act request. And then what does she do? She goes and makes an elaborate plan to set the DOJ and the DEA against each other. Like that's one way to be. That's a vibe. This one doesn't have a lot. Operation Random Harvest sought to document criminal activity on the part of the IRS. So I actually have some of these documents. They were putting out newspapers all through the 90s as well. So I can only imagine this kept going, where they were exposing crimes from IRS and the IRS officials. And I'm sure there are many. No, listen. Sorry, this is probably loud. Oops, my bad, guys. Nobody likes the IRS. Like, nobody likes the fucking IRS. However, it's pretty wild to start going after individual agents of the IRS to get them to do what you want. I think it's maybe good that they also had this random harvest thing going on, because at least then they were also looking at the crimes. And that's what's so weird about Scientology too, is their enemies, there's like their enemy, what is that saying? Enemy of an enemy is my friend. There are certainly organizations out there that Scientology is against. Like, I'm against abuse and forced psychiatric drugging, of course. So on that way, I align with Scientology, but they take this shit to the max. My goodness. Okay. Operation Rook was a Guardian's Office campaign against the Better Business Bureau of Phoenix, Arizona, in the start of the 70s. Whoa. According to one of the documents seized by the FBI from the Guardian's Office in 1977, successes of Operation Rook included successfully obtaining Phoenix BBB file on Scientology and Arizona Republic newspaper file on Scientology. You know, it was a woman who did this too. I'm so sure of it. Just like a little secretary in the 70s with her cute little things, and that's how they get you. So they get you. I'm just being sexist. I mean, I don't know that that's true. Please do hit the like button, not for the ops, but for the convo. All right. Operation Search and Destroy. Operation Search and Destroy, that's intense. Targeted organizations and individuals providing information to the IRS. Okay. So the Guardian's Office would use overt or covert means to obtain information which could be used to discredit them, while avoiding any disclosure on Scientology's involvement. The Guardian's Office had already obtained information on the IRS informants and sought to expand its coverage. Oh, my Lord. Diabolical. Okay. If I got this right. So not only did they infiltrate the IRS and figure out who was working on Scientology documents, like who was doing the cases, then they sent covert spies, we're talking about spies, guys, into those people's lives to find out their social and political and like their personal lives. Then anybody who was giving information to the IRS, they essentially did the same thing, all with the goal to find out ways to discredit them. What does that look like? That looks like somebody pretending to be your best fucking friend. And then when you feel low and you ask them for help, they make a note and then they report that and they use it later. In fact, if you ever come across somebody who takes information that you told them when you were feeling low or vulnerable, or they were in a position of help or relationship, like that's a bad fucking sign of character. Like all of this is a bad sign of character, in my humble opinion. This is gross. Operation Shake and Bake was a plan targeting Lavenda von Shake, an ex-Scientologist who left the church in 1979. According to Von Shake, supposedly confidential personal information, we were just talking about this, that she divulged as part of Scientology counseling was used as an attempt to blackmail her. She also reported that her home and telephone had been bugged, and an attempt had been made to break up her marriage by telling her that her husband had affairs with other women. Dang, that is one thing. I mean, I've heard of other like documents where probably some of these spies go in, they find out like the most important thing in a person's life or their stability, whatever it is, whatever they want to protect, whatever they're willing to do. And then they take that information back and that's used against them. So dang. And they bugged her phone. Wow. And they used her confidential counseling information against her. In or out of Scientology, I just can't say it enough. If you are asking somebody who has put themselves in a helping position for help, right? Like if you're seeking aid from somebody And then they turn around and they document that, and then they use that information later to hurt you because of something that you said or did that they didn't like. I almost can think of very little that is less abhorrent and just like the sign of just a disgusting character, in my opinion. Like, that's so nasty to me. Anyway. So, a plan. Operation Shell Game. Again, 1977. These mofos were busy. Mo Budlong sent an order to the Deputy Gardens Information in Canada. It ordered the Canadians. So now we got Mexico, Canada, and the US. And ordered their staff to locate the papers of a former director of the World Health Organization. Oh my Lord. Wow. A Scientologist using a suitable guise was to review the papers and obtain copies of anything to do with Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, so the World Health Organization and Dr. Brock. So Dr. Brock Chisholm must have been writing and studying research about Scientology. He's going to put something out. And Scientology didn't like that. So they did Operation Shell Game to get in there and find out what they knew. Wow. I mean, I just want to know what they've been up to since the 80s. Okay, Operation Smoke was an infiltration campaign carried out against the American Cancer Society, which had issued an alert in 1966 warning that it had found no evidence that treatment with the E-meter results in any objective benefits in the treatment of cancer or human beings. Huh. I've never actually heard that it was supposed to cure cancer or health, but that's interesting. 1966, they had Operation Smoke. What year was the CIA founded? I can't remember. Let me look really quick. This is just so, it's actually Navy intelligence and then morphs to CIA. But I'm just curious again when it was founded. Hold on, guys. 1947. July 26, 1947. Dang. Operation Snapper was a plot in 1976 to discredit Lawrence Tapper. Snapper Tapper. Okay, at least then that makes a little more sense. The Deputy Attorney General in charge of the Charitable Trust Unit in California Attorney General's office, who had handled consumer fraud complaints. There we have it. He's the person responsible for handling consumer fraud complaints against Scientology in the 70s. So what did they do? Oh, wow. They intended to frame him with a pregnant woman, a fake nun, and a fictional bribery kickback to get him removed from his post in the Attorney General's office. Wow. Okay, here's the quote from the plan. Wow. Recruit a very tough woman that is obviously pregnant and that is a good actress. She does a practice run on the Attorney General's office to ascertain the best place in Avell Younger's office, the former Attorney General, to do the action. Pregnant woman simply walks into the AG's office in Sacramento and says in so many words, "I told Larry I wouldn't do this, but he gave me no choice. I don't care about his career anymore. I mean, look at me. I'll go to the press even if it does ruin my family's reputation. I won't have an abortion." After creating a scene and crying, the woman was to leave saying, "Oh, never mind. Nobody will help me anyway." Wow. This is freaking hot tea for me. I don't know what you guys are all about, but this is some hot tea. Okay, phase 2. Recruit a trusted male. Must be able to talk angrily and sound about 45 to 50 years old over the phone. He's the father of the pregnant girl. He calls up the 2 areas his daughter visited and gives them hell from an outside phone. Says, "My daughter came into your office yesterday, the pregnant girl. Well, I don't know what you people said to her, but she is terrified. Talks of suicide. This guy is Larry Tapper. Who is he? My daughter tells me he's the father of her child, and he's threatened to have her committed if she reveals this. You can only protect bastards like Tapper for so long. Then you'll get a Watergate." Holy crap. Dang. Wow. They were recruiting a trusted female with a lot of courage. And then oh my God. Then you have to find out what's the biggest order of nuns in the area and what habit they would be wearing during this season. That's their clothes. Okay. These motherfuckers are so intense. Oh, wow. All right. So pretend to be a nun, find the research, get the exact right habit for the season, recruit a reliable person who can actually take the professional photograph indoors. The nun would go to the attorney general's office and ask about filing a complaint. The photographer would follow her and overhear her question and would make her admit that she wanted to complain about Tapper. The photographer would start taking pictures of the nun. The nun covers her face, says, "Please don't. Oh no, oh God, I shouldn't have come here." The nun leaves very upset. The photographer asks receptionist, "Who was that?" and leaves. In the second phase, the Scientology posting as a journalist will go to the office and ask questions. Is it true that a nun came in here yesterday and accused of Younger protecting Lawrence Tapper? This is diabolical. It is. It's like a bad 1970s drama. This poor guy, Tapper, it's like, what a bad day. Some brave pregnant chick shows up and just starts hell for you. And then a fake dad calls, and then a fake nun pretends to be outraged and like leaves. This is high-level scripting. Oh my Lord. Diabolical. I can't deal with Tapper anymore. They fucked this guy up. They fucked him up. And then, of course, we have Operation Snow White, which was a huge, this is kind of encompasses a lot of, I think, what we're talking about today, because this is what they actually got sent to prison for. It was a criminal conspiracy. Operation Snow White was a criminal conspiracy during the 1970s to purge unfavorable records about Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard from 136 government agencies, foreign embassies, and consulates, as well as private organizations critical of Scientology in more than 30 countries. It was one of the largest infiltrations of the United States government in history, with up to 5,000 covert agents who committed infiltration, wiretapping, and theft of documents in government offices. Most notably, those of the IRS. Shocker. So it sounds like Operation Snow White was actually about documents, but all these other operations were still going on at the time. And I believe it's Operation Snow White that finally got them caught and in trouble. And then these other ones were exposed. Oh my gosh. Operation Sore Throat. So now this was a campaign against the American Medical Association. If you remember, the American Medical Association basically laughed Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard out of the building. They were like, "Nope, you suck. You can't play with us." And that made L. Ron Hubbard upset. There's a lot more to it than that, but they have been foes for many years, like for forever. So Operation Sore Throat is a pun off of Deep Throat, who was a Watergate scandal whistleblower. And basically, Sore Throat was a anonymous whistleblower. And they claimed to be a doctor that was working for the AMA Chicago office for about 10 years. And that there was a leak, and they were leaking information. Let's see here. Under an assumed name. What was it about? A lot more names. Hold on. Kember. She's one of the ones that actually, you know what I think it was? Is I think that they actually exposed a real crime of Scientology. Hold on. This one's really getting to me. I have to read it. So he leaked a lot of information. He was acting like a leak from the AMA. And it was actually turning out to be Michael Meisner. And he just reported that he did all this stuff. And also that they placed people in the AMA to work there as spies. Women. Yep. And then they did reveal some information. Yep. I think I think this is the one where they revealed information about the US government doing tests on soldiers. But that doesn't seem to be in here, which is weird. That's the thing. Scientology has whistleblown against the United States government on several occasions, and they've been right about some horrible things the government has done. Intelligence agencies in the government too, which is so weird. All right, well, I kind of blundered that one, but there's a lot there. We're going to move on. We're almost to the end of the alphabet, guys, so we're getting there. Operation Strike was there's Kathy Gregg. Is that the girl's name that I had looked up before? Miss Kathy Gregg? I think maybe. Is she crazy? I'm so curious. Who are these women and men? I mean, men too, but who are these women that do these things? Okay. Operation Strike was a covert campaign in which Guardian's Office staffer Kathy Gregg defined that the action of gathering information on a covert basis. She had a 12-point action plan on how to I don't know where she was trying to get these files from, but she wrote as part of her 12-step plan that she was going to get squeakless shoes. Yeah. And she was going to establish a safe reading place if the stolen files could not be removed. Girl, don't go full spy. Don't write it down. I assume that was part of Operation Snow White. Operation Yellow, 1976, planned to discredit critics of Scientology in Clearwater, Florida, in particular the mayor, making him seem fascist, a commie hater, and a bigot. Ooh, particularly with Jewish people. Oh boy. All right, there's other operations here, guys. The McLeans, Mark Sabelman, Clearwater Sun, programs. Wow. I don't think we have time for all these. There's a whole ass other list of projects. Oh no, Project Taco list. That sounds sad. We're not going to go over all of these because you know what? My mind and my brain can only take so much. Can only take so freaking much. You know? So many. Look, even my hair's fallen down. It's like, girl, they crazy. They crazy. Wow. What have we learned here today? What have we learned here? What have I learned here? I think is more important because that's all I can speak to. I have learned that Scientology has very high level training for people to infiltrate, spy, steal, and covertly get into people's lives, their social lives, their political lives, to find out what makes them tick. That information then is passed on to a different agent or a different set of agents that then will use that information, leak it to somehow expose you in the future. So, I don't know, guys. Are you guys exhausted from the mental gymnastics that it takes just to keep bad news about Scientology from going out into the world? They are fighting an uphill battle that just like never ends. It is brutal. And so I guess on that note, maybe we should say something to OSA today, which is the existing part of Scientology that the Guardian's Office morphed into. And if you are OSA, or you are one of my family members watching this on OSA's behalf, or if you're just like OSA oriented, what I would like to say to you today is it shouldn't be this much work to hide the bad news. If Scientology is, in fact, the most ethical organization on the planet and is doing the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics across the board, then they should be able to stand up to a little bit of criticism, or the leader should be able to look at one cartoon without making a whole ass operation. And the fact that that has happened for 50 years now is problematic. So you're not on the right track. You could be, but my favorite line ever is where you are today, OSA. You're at the whim of a madman. Bonus points to anybody who knows what that's from. Peace of My Mind says, how do you know how to trust? You don't. You can't. You can't. I mean, logically, there are people put into lives of ex-Scientologists and critics who are just there to be their friend, to find out what makes them tick and report back. Yes, we talked about this. Terminatedly handling a problem means that it will never come back again. Journey says, ePublic is the company. Okay, I will look into that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. You know, I'm not saying that Scientology has infiltrated my home or my Roomba. I will say that if they wanted to, I have no doubt that they could find somebody who could hack my Roomba. For real. Or put a bug in it if they wanted. I mean, why do they have to? I'm live streaming. I'm here. Like, nobody gives a shit. But I'm also not the mayor. I don't work for the IRS or the AMA. I'm not a writer for a newspaper. So it actually explains and describes how they were able to get religious tax exempt status. Yes. So if they were doing all of this in the 70s, I know they had to pull back because they did get in trouble, but I think there's no reason they wouldn't attempt it again, personally. So, yep. I'm sorry to hear this, that your mom would do the same thing, get info out of you while you were fragile and upset, then use it against later. Yeah. I think the most egregious forms of this are usually when obviously using someone's diagnosis or their mental health or if they have like suicide ideation, using that against a person is like really, really, really gross. And in some cases, it's actually illegal. And I think it's really gets tricky too, because I think we've all learned that there are certain personalities that put themselves in helping positions in order to exploit other people. As a mom, going into like sports or whatever, we know from history there are coaches who have really just only wanted to be around kids so that they could harm them and groom them. And then there are coaches who want to be around kids because they genuinely care and they want to help them build character and they get fulfilled in their life by helping others. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, which sucks. It sucks. And it's not just Scientology. It's the fact that, the manufacturer of the poison will sell you the poison and then sell you the cure right after. And once you grew up like in a cult, like Scientology, and you think you have all the answers, and then you wake up one day and you realize, I don't know shit, I've been lied to. It is hard to figure out who to trust, in my opinion. So thanks for that comment. Okay, so this is interesting too. It was Doris Day's son, Terry Melcher's former home, where Sharon Tate and others were killed by the Manson family, were murdered in 1969. Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys had introduced them. Which one of the Beach Boys was a Scientologist. I think it was Dennis Wilson. There's some ties there that are pretty wild. They're minute, but if we're going to go down the conspiracy path real quick, guys, why don't we go there? Okay, so if Manson was actually being handled by Jolly West and was a part of the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, and if we believe that Jolly West was actually giving Charles Manson the large amounts of LSD that he was giving to his people and teaching him how to use it to incite his people to murder, right? Because that's the assumed role of the op, is to find out how to drug people into committing murder on your behalf, right? Incite them. Clearly it worked. Do you know that Charles Manson, I bet you guys all know this, but he used to dose everybody and say he also took acid and he wasn't on it, which makes you essentially God in front of people. You show somebody a freaking card trick when they're on acid and you will change their brain. You will change their brain. So I find this interesting. Terry Melcher had, some people say that that the Manson girl, like the family, thought they were going to Terry Melcher, thought that he was still there, but actually Sharon Tate was there. I don't know if that's true or not, but then there's the Wilson and the Beach Boys ties, because it's been scrubbed, but there is a connection between the Beach Boys and Scientology. Dennis Wilson, I'm pretty sure, was the dude. So if anybody wants to send me any tidbits about this, I love it. That was a lot. Oh, you guys are the best. It was at the whim of a madman. That is the best quote ever. Trust. I know. It's tricky. And again, like, I've been accused of being one of these new age guardians office. Like, does that Does that seem to fit? Is that what I am? I'm not really sure. I don't think so. Pretty sure I'm not. Pretty sure I am not. Yes. Haggisbasher says, yes, I think it's completely vile and disgusting going after someone and insulting them for publicly speaking out about seeking help for their mental well-being. I also think that that is very gross. And I'm very wary about people who instill themselves in helping positions, who safe point themselves essentially, and then do this. That's even more red flaggy for me. Yes, there is a link between Beach Boys, Manson, and Scientology. There is. It's elusive. It's hard to find, but it does exist. Yes, indeed. Yeah, maybe in a past lifetime, I was one of these spy ops. I mean, I don't know, to be a fly on the wall of this era. Okay, well, that was, I want to say that was super fun. That was about what I was going to say. I'm not sure fun was the right word because I had some emotions during that where I kind of got pissed off. I kind of get annoyed. I'm a little freaked the fuck out because Scientology has been doing this for 70 years. And technically, I've done a lot more than just write a cartoon. If that one dude, Operation Funny Bone guy, he wrote one cartoon and he had a whole ass operation. Woo! Well, I'm going to be side-eyeing my Roomba for the next week. Thanks for that. Just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys know a couple things coming up this week, at least tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will be chatting, hopefully if all goes well, with the lovely Alicia, degraded daughter, and Nora in the morning. So we'll all have our coffee, and we'll just have a little chit-chat and see what everybody's been up to, compare notes, and maybe I'll ask them about some spy stuff, what they've dealt with. That said, I'm also going to let you guys, I'm going to go straight out into the art studio, take a few little footages, do a little voiceover video, let you know what the hell's going on, and post it. Okay? So check that out. And I don't feel like plugging my book or doing any of that crap today. So I'm just going to say bye. And I'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time, same face, same paranoia. Okay, bye.
She knows herself, she finds her way. Through art and joy, she shapes each day, crafting beauty.